For the past few months, I've been working on the biggest rocket motor I've ever built. It's called Mega X, a reusable, 2-foot long, 3.5-inch diameter rocket motor with a total impulse of 5,000 newton seconds and a max thrust of 500 pounds. This motor is over 8 times the size of my second largest, and while it may look similar on the outside, every part of Mega X is far more complex. In today's video, I'll take you through exactly how I designed this rocket motor. Real quick before we get started, this video is not a tutorial. Rocket motors at this scale can be extremely dangerous, so this video is strictly for educational purposes only. That said, I hope this video could be a great resource for someone interested in the engineering behind Mega X. Let's start by exploring the parts of a rocket motor. All rocket motors have 4 main parts: the propellant, nozzle, bulkhead, and casing. We'll start off with the propellant. When it's ignited, it rapidly burns and produces a massive amount of hot gas. Next is the nozzle, which has 3 main sections: converging, straight, and diverging. These are shaped to accelerate the gas produced by the burning propellant and direct them out the back to create thrust. The nozzle also has to survive extreme heat and erosion, which is why material and design are so critical. Now that the forward section of the motor is covered, let's move on to the aft side. Here we have a bulkhead, which seals off the motor and keeps the gases contained inside. And finally, the casing surrounds the entire motor, giving it structure and providing attachment points for both the nozzle and the bulkhead and keeping the pressure contained. The casing acts as a pressure vessel. It needs to withstand forces of hundreds of pounds per square inch without tearing apart. Now that you know the basics of a rocket motor, let's move over to simulating Mega X. I personally use a program called OpenMotor. It's a fantastic free application you can download and experiment with yourself. The first step is to define how much propellant I want this rocket motor to hold. For Mega X, that's 24 inches long with an outer diameter of 3 inches. Next, I configure the propellant. For Mega X, that's KNSB. I'll explain more about that in a minute. Once the propellant is set, I start adding parameters, things like throat diameter, exit diameter, and throat length. At this stage, they're mostly educated guesses, but good enough to run an initial simulation. With everything entered, I hit simulate. OpenMotor generates a full set of data: total impulse, burn time, thrust curve, propellant mass, chamber pressure, and much more. Without simulation software like this, designing a rocket motor like this would be way more difficult. As I mentioned earlier, the propellant for this rocket motor is KNSB, which stands for potassium nitrate and sorbitol. The sorbitol acts as a fuel, while the potassium nitrate provides the oxygen to keep it burning. A typical KNSB motor uses about 65% potassium nitrate and 35% sorbitol, and that's the ratio that I'm using here. Where I experiment is in the particle size of the potassium nitrate. I use 2 different kinds of potassium nitrate for this rocket motor: milled and granular. This simply refers to how fine the particles are, milled being more like a powder and granular being coarser crystals. I can control not only the performance of the burn, but also the viscosity of the molten propellant during casting. I've ran a lot of tests dialing this in, and I'll be going much deeper into that in an upcoming propellant-focused video. For this motor, I'm also using 2 different grain geometries. One is a simple straight cylinder with a core through the center. The other is called a finicyl, which gets its name because the core has fins cut into it. These geometries burn differently. A finicyl has much more surface area at ignition, which means a higher thrust at the very start of the burn. That quick boost makes it easier for the rocket to get off the pad and gain stability. Casting the propellant could be one of the most complex parts of building a rocket motor. Getting the right consistency, pouring it evenly, and making sure there's no air bubbles or voids takes a lot of practice and careful design. There's so much to it. I'll be making a full video dedicated to just propellant casting. Now let's move on to actually designing the nozzle. I use Onshape, a free browser-based CAD program to design all my rocket motors. If you want to give it a try, use the link in my description to get started. I start by drawing the converging half angle, the throat, and the diverging half angle. These parameters come directly from the motor simulation. Once those are in place, I connect all the lines and get this. There's a few steps I missed, but I'll get back to them in a minute. This nozzle is primarily made out of 6061 aluminum. Aluminum is great because it's lightweight, easy to machine, and relatively inexpensive. But aluminum has a low melting point, so to handle this extreme heating, I added a graphite insert in the areas of peak thermal load. Graphite is very resistant to melting or eroding, with a much higher melting point than aluminum. The insert covers the entire converging section, the throat, and extends slightly beyond the start of the diverging section. From my SN series rocket motors, I've learned a lot where these inserts fail. On SN2, I stopped its stainless steel insert right at the throat, but the aluminum beyond this was badly eroded. That's why for Mega X, I've extended the insert past the throat for extra protection. I also designed the insert to be removable. Since Mega X was designed with reusability in mind, this was a key part. This makes the nozzle far more serviceable and helps me maintain a faster test cadence. Now let's go back to one detail I skipped earlier: sealing the nozzle against the casing. These two grooves on the nozzle are designed to hold O-rings. The nozzle's outer diameter is slightly smaller than the inner diameter of the casing, which leaves a small gap. The O-ring compresses into that gap and creates a tight seal, keeping hot gases from escaping. O-rings come in a wide range of shape, sizes, and materials, and they're used in everything from plumbing to aerospace. To size mine correctly, I relied on two trusted resources, the Parker O-ring handbook and the Trelleborg O-ring calculator. For Mega X, I chose a thicker O-ring profile. The advantage to using a thicker O-ring is that it has more contact area and can better conform into small imperfections in the nozzle or casing. The trade-off though is it takes a lot more force to press the nozzle into the casing. On my smaller motors, I usually get away with a single O-ring, but at this scale, it's smarter to add a backup. That way, if the first seal fails, the second can still hold the pressure. These O-rings are made from high-temperature material called FKM, designed to withstand extreme heat and pressure inside the motor. Right past the O-ring groove, you'll notice a series of 8 holes. These are threaded to accept bolts to lock the nozzle into the casing. There are other ways to secure a nozzle and bulkhead, but radial bolts are straightforward to machine and reliable if designed properly. The biggest design consideration with radial bolts is preventing what's called tear out. Tear out happens when the bolts shear through the casing wall under pressure and literally rip themselves free. This isn't just a theory, it actually happened on SN3. My calculations showed the bolts were strong enough for the first firing, and they were, but I didn't account for fatigue. By the second firing, the weakened bolt holes failed and the entire nozzle blew out of the casing. For Mega X, the casing walls are much thicker, which resists tear out far better. And instead of using the bare minimum amount of bolts, I've added a few for redundancy. This makes sure the nozzle stays locked in place even if the pressure is more than expected. Now, moving on to the bulkhead. This part is also made from aluminum, and like the nozzle, it has 2 O-ring grooves machined into it. The bulkhead is also secured with the same series of 8 radial bolts, which locks it into the casing and prevents it from blowing out under pressure. It also has a 1/8 inch MPT threaded hole for a pressure transducer. I used a very similar setup on SN4 and SM5. It worked very well with collecting real-time pressure data inside of the chamber. This lets me compare the actual pressure curve to the simulated pressure curve to see how the motor performed. The bulkhead also connects directly to the load cell adapter. That's how I'll measure the thrust of the motor, turning the motor not just into a test firing, but also a data gathering experiment. More on that in the separate test stand video. And finally, we have the casing, the part that holds everything together. For Mega X, I'm using an aluminum tube with a 3.5 inch outer diameter and a 3.25 inch inner diameter, which gives a wall thickness of 1/8 inch. I could have went thinner to save on some weight, but I really want to make sure this casing does not burst. After a test, the casing will experience heat and pressure cycling, and that extra strength means it can handle multiple firings without weakening as quickly. So while it'll add some extra weight, the trade-off is a much safer motor. And this is how I designed my most powerful rocket motor yet. And this is just the beginning for Mega X. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on because I'm going to have a lot more videos coming out about Mega X, from test stand, propellant casting, and then the actual static fire. Also, rocket motors like this are very expensive to build, so if you'd like to support my work by becoming a channel member, there's exclusive behind the scenes video updates and bi-weekly update videos. Other than that, please subscribe, comment, and like, and I'll see you in the next video.